It's time for Clubhouse Chatter. Here's Norm Ordez.
Hey, good morning and welcome to Clubhouse Chatter on this beautiful Sunday morning here in the Eola Hills of Amity. It's going to be a warm one, about 85 degrees here today. And our first guest this morning, we're going to kind of stray away from the baseball theme and something that I am really interested in, and his name is Scott Truax, and it is dubbed the Return to Snake River. Scott, how you doing this morning?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. September 8th, 1974, Evel Knievel attempted to jump the Snake River Canyon outside of Twin Falls, Idaho. And as we all know, something went awry and it didn't happen. He did not make the jump. Now, Scott's dad, was he the lead engineer, or was he just one of the engineers on his sled?
Well, he was the head guy when it actually launched, but he sort of took the project over from another engineer named Doug Malwicki. Real nice guy, but he actually built Evel's first try called the X1, and I guess as the story goes, Doug was transporting it somewhere, and the media, managed to snap a few pictures of it, and that kind of ruined one of Evel's promotional deals, so he fired him. And I've got this letter from Evel to my dad saying, "Hey, would you mind taking this project over? I got to get this done." And I'm sure my dad happily took it over.
And so that brings us today, 2016. You guys are going to do it again.
Absolutely. This summer, we have chosen a launch date. We're working out logistics to make sure that there's nothing in the way, that we can absolutely meet that date, and before we officially announce it.
Okay. And you have chosen Eddie Braun to drive. Is it pretty much the same sled? You guys are calling it the X2?
Yeah, I call it it's nearly identical. As far as it was built with the same specifications, the same parts. The only thing that we changed was the parachute system, which is the only thing that failed.
Right.
Was completely redesigned. And then we put some extra chromoly tubing up front, protection structure up front to make it a little more sturdy.
So who is Eddie Braun?
Eddie Braun is probably the hardest working stuntman in the history of the world. I had originally started this project in my mind, ever since I was a kid. I wanted to prove that my dad's rocket would have worked. He was a famous rocket scientist that had a lot of big rocket projects under his belt, and yet he was most famously known for this failure. And really, was the rocket worked flawlessly. It was just a parachute. They didn't have the time or the budget to adequately test the parachute. So I originally wanted to do this with Robbie Knievel. I thought it was a great story, the sons of Bob Truax and Evel Knievel carrying on in their father's footsteps. And then I met Robbie in 2010, and we had a positive meeting with the city of Twin Falls and all the powers that be, the approvals that the people that would need to approve this. And then shortly thereafter, Robbie had a big argument with his manager, and things kind of fell apart for him. And I realized that this was going to get done. I was going to have to do it myself. So I started collecting the parts necessary to build the rocket. And once I got it looking like a rocket, I started a Facebook page. And about 2 days later, I got a message from this guy named Eddie Braun. And it was very nice. He said, I was inspired by Evel Knievel. In fact, he's the reason why I went into the field of professional stunts. And check out my IMDb. And I did. I went, my gosh, this guy's for real. He's done for 30 years, that's all he's done. He started with the TV show Chips, and has gone on. I mean, just about any big stunt movie, you've got Eddie Braun, his hand in it. He's now elevated to stunt coordinator. He also does stunts, but he also coordinates stunts for big movies. Yeah, look him up. And then I met him, and we became good friends. He's one of the most honorable, decent guys I've ever met. And boy, the guy is hardworking, and he's a role model, the type of role model I'm not sure we have these days anymore. The guy is a great family man, works hard, pays his bills, just as honest as the day is long. And I had been approached by several people wanting to sit in the pilot's seat, but I wasn't really interested in having a project that somebody would use to just promote themselves. And Eddie was very interested, just like me. He wants to pay homage to his hero, Evel Knievel, the same way I want to pay homage to my father. So it really was a good, solid match.
This has got to be one of the biggest spectacles of 2016. I think, growing up in Kimberly, Idaho, just outside of Twin Falls, of course, I was 7 at the time, and when Evel made his jump, and my dad was in the Army, so we were in Germany at the time. But I remember it like it was yesterday. I've had so many friends and family who actually went to see the jump, and you grow up with that big old ramp, just overlooking the canyon there in Twin Falls. And so, you hear the stories, and as we came on, before we came on, I was talking to Brian, as a kid, we had one of those little the sky cycles, the stunt cycles as a kid was like, what, 1975, 1976 was like one of the coolest toys ever, and I know I had one or two, and Brian had one, and I mean, Evel Knievel was a big deal and still is to this day, even though he's passed on.
Yeah, he was like a superhero to us kids.
He was.
A living superhero. And he had a great message. I mean, it wasn't just that the guy jumped motorcycles. He created this whole persona. Robert Craig Knievel, once he became Evel Knievel, was this larger-than-life character that would get out there on his motorcycle with his stars and stripes, and at a time when America really was kind of not feeling too good about itself, and he told this whole generation of kids, you and me, that have grown up hearing that you can do anything you set your mind to, and stay in school, don't do drugs, listen to your parents. Where he may not have been the most perfect guy in his personal life, his message was absolutely right on, and it's a message I think we need today, and that's really what we hope to do. Is I don't see today's generation with any heroes inspiring them for greatness.
Right.
So I think that I think America needs this. This is something that it connects our generation to its childhood. When as we get old, I don't know if you feel this way, but being a kid, being an adult just doesn't even compare to being a kid.
Oh, absolutely.
Growing up in the 70s and 80s, it was just, before the mortgages and the divorces and the taxes and all the hassles of adulthood, you had this just pure and, great time of being a kid. And everybody's kind of nowadays looking to sort of, something that recaptures that. So there's that aspect to the project. But like I said, also I would love to be an inspiration to the new generation, to tell them the same things we got told, that, being an American is something special. You've got a freedom in this country that is not, it's not worldwide. There's a lot of places in this world where you just can't do what you can do here. And I want kids to think that they can do anything that they set their minds to, because I don't see that. In fact, I see just the opposite.
Right.
We have all the world telling people what you can't do. and what's not possible. And I don't know, as an American, to me, that's just not acceptable.
Let's talk about your sled. Man, it's a beauty. And tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I tried very hard. I had all of my dad's notes and calculations, and of course, growing up, I was there. I was only 6 years old when the launch happened, but from the time I was born to be able to remember really anything, my dad was building this rocket. And even as a little kid, I paid close attention. I got to sit in it when I was a little kid. And I tried to recreate it. My dad would rarely use, build anything custom. If he could run out and grab some sort of surplus part to do the job. And the fuselage of the rocket is actually an external fuel tank for a Grumman Albatross seaplane. And the engine, which is a steam engine, it's essentially just a high-pressure tank. He used a breathing oxygen tank from a B-50 bomber. So back in the day, these parts were kind of a dime a dozen, and it took a lot of searching to find the exact part, but they were still there. They were still I was still able to find the same parts. The fins were actually modified from a Hiller helicopter. And so I did the same thing. We know what worked. We know what didn't work. So we copied it as closely as we could. And the whole point is to prove that my dad's rocket would have worked. And, if I was starting from scratch, having a pretty good idea on how to build things, I might have done certain things different, but we really, really tried to keep true to the original. And if you look at pictures of the old one, pictures of the new one, other than the paint job, which we decided rather than to duplicate the original, we wanted something that had the same flavor but was updated. Mm-hmm. And a guy named Troy Lee of Troy Lee Designs, he does a lot of helmets for NASCAR, and he heard about this project and contacted Eddie and said, he's down in L.A., Eddie's out of Hollywood, of course, and said, I got to do this. And he did it for nothing. And PPG donated the paint, and my gosh, they spent, I think they spent 6 weeks on it, and it just came out perfectly. It's glorious.
It's gorgeous. It is.
Yeah, I'm so proud of it.
And we're looking at a picture of it now, and I'm stoked. I'm stoked for you guys. And so, were you there for that jump in '74?
Yeah, my dad rented a motorhome for the family, and we drove from Saratoga, California, up to Twin Falls, Idaho, and I sat and watched it from the top of the motorhome, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember the big Freedom crane, dropping him in, and the countdown and the launch, and immediately you could see that the parachute cover had come off, and even dragging the parachute, it made it all the way across, but it was a pretty heavy wind that day, mm-hmm. and there was some sort of consternation as to whether they should delay the launch, but Evil had a huge amount of money riding on it, and the decision was made to go. And it would have made it had the parachute, even with the winds, had the parachute come out at the right time, would have made it. Had the winds been non-existent or blowing the other way, even dragging the parachute, it wouldn't have made it. But the combination of the winds and the parachute coming out too soon, it ended up blowing back into the canyon. And he was actually really lucky that he didn't go into the water, because he couldn't get his harness undone. And there was no rescue vehicles close enough, and he'd have drowned but his guardian angels were definitely working overtime that day, and he ended up bouncing off a big rock and falling down another 50 feet or so, and ended up right on the banks of the river.
That's a big drop.
Yeah, it was. I just recently took a hike down, and I found the exact spot that he hit.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't even want to get too close to the edge, because it's a sheer drop, and you would probably not survive just falling. But luckily, the parachute didn't collapse all the way, and provided enough drag for him to land relatively unscathed.
And so now, are you guys jumping from the same spot, or are you going a different spot?
Now, we really, really wanted to jump from the same spot. When I came here in 2012, this wasn't on anybody's radar, and I got in touch with the Chamber of Commerce, who the guy running the Chamber of Commerce was kind of self-appointed as, I mean, people have been bothering the city of Twin Falls about doing a project like this for 40 years.
Right.
And they've all been crackpots without a serious plan. So what they decided to sort of put a package together saying, okay, anybody that wants to jump in, you got to hop through these hoops. And the first thing they said was you got to get permission from the Idaho Department of Lands, which owns the property on the other side of the canyon if you want to land, because they had a process to lease the land. So when we started that process, like I said, we were the only ones around. The guy running the Department of Lands at the time was retiring, didn't really want to hassle with it, kept putting us off, telling us we needed more information, even though we had filled out their entire application. And then his successor was really interested in getting as much money for this piece of land, and he went and advertised that it was available. And that brought 4 other teams out of the woodwork that wanted to recreate the stunt. And the Department of Land's charter is to make money from the land. They really didn't care about the jump. They didn't care about anybody's ability to complete the jump, just whoever had the most money. So it went to an auction, a land lease auction, and the bidding got up to $943,000 just to land on the other side. And Eddie bid $800,000, and he was planning to go $1 million, but once his $800,000 bid got bested, he leaned into me and he said, "This is crazy. There'll be no money to build the rocket, no money to do anything if we pay all of our money in the land lease." You know, he goes, "Do you mind if we bow out?" And I said, "Are you kidding me? I'm so proud and excited that you were willing to commit that kind of money, but you're right. This is there isn't an infinite amount of money in the project, and we can't spend it all on this lease." And that turned out to be the absolute right thing to do, because the guy that paid that $943,000 ended up having no money. The city didn't like him, and they denied his right or his petition to use the original spot. So people in politics sort of combined to make that just not possible. So the next day, we, rather than give up, we thought, what would evil do? And we said, let's just find somewhere else. It's a big canyon. And so we went a little bit further east, and we found some private land, and the people were happy to lease the land to us, and we built our ramp there. In fact, growing up in Kimberly, you know where the Hanson Bridge is, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
We are on the northeast corner of the Hanson Bridge.
Oh, wow.
And we've got our spot, and our ramp is built. The rocket is tested and ready to go. It's just a matter of promoting it right now and getting sponsors on board, and we're really excited.
You know, as a kid from Kimberly, growing up in Kimberly, that is pretty exciting. You know, nothing really ever happens out in Kimberly, Hanson, Murtaugh area, and this is going to be huge.
Southern Idaho,
this is going to be big. And now is it going to be televised? I know that I heard that there was some of that in the works.
Yeah, we've actually pitched this to just about everybody, and it has been passed on by every network. I think the problem is we have a lot of these network executives are young. They're like in their 30s.
Right.
And, guys our age get it, and kids get it. But this sort of, millennial generation or older, 20-somethings to 30-somethings, they grew up with Travis Pastrana and all these, the jackass guys doing way more crazy stunts, and so they don't quite get it. They don't see the significance. And we decided from the beginning, I called it the Field of Dreams approach. If you build it, they will come. And I built a rocket, and Eddie Braun came. And Eddie Braun says, you know what, let's do this thing. If somebody wants to get on board, fantastic. Otherwise, you know what, we started this thing, we're going to finish it. And I have a feeling it's going to be just like it was with Knievel. He did not have any sponsors lined up until about a month before the jump. Until the rocket was on the ramp, nobody quite believed it. It didn't seem real. And once you got a ramp and a rocket and you're ready to go, you got a couple of tests under your belt, then all of a sudden, oh, okay. And we've been holding off on announcing a launch date because we wanted to make sure that a big part of it was if a broadcaster wanted to jump on board, well, they're going to want to choose the launch date. And that sort of never crystallized. So, okay, now we're in control. We've chosen the date. We're going to go on this date. And you know what? If at that point a broadcaster wants to jump on board, great. If not, hey, that's your loss, because we know that this is going to be big. It's going to be all over the news at the very least. And that's what you got to do. Just never give up. If you've got something, you've got a good idea, reserve yourself to never give up. Then you will succeed, because it's impossible not to.
Producer Brian is over here. He's like, hey, Clubhouse Chatter will do a live feed, do a live show from there.
Well, we happy to have you.
So it'd be kind of a nice little homecoming. And man, I'm really excited. I can't. Evel Knievel was a big part of my childhood, and kids, our age, guys our age, I think it was pretty much all the way across the board. I remember. Yeah,
it was universal. Have you ever been up to Butte, Montana, and gone to Evel Knievel days?
I haven't.
You have to. It's the last weekend in July, and I'll tell you, it is It's all guys our age, and then a bunch of young kids that are from Butte, and everybody comes from all over, and you are immediately in your demographic, and everyone there is your friend, and they're all there to just talk about good times, ride motorcycles, watch stunts. It is an absolute blast. I've been there for the last 3 years, and I enjoy the heck out of it every time, and everybody is an instant friend, right, in the whole crowd, because you've got something in common. This sort of interest or passion for this guy that did really cool stuff.
A couple more questions before we let you go. Number one, what do you as a 6-year-old kid on top of that RV watching it go down, what do you remember about Twin Falls, Idaho? A kid from California coming into farm town, Twin Falls, Idaho. What do you remember most about that besides the jump?
Well, it's funny. Not a lot. I don't even remember. I remember as soon as the rocket went down into the canyon, everybody rushed to the edge, and there was just a chintzy little chain link fence holding everyone from the edge, and you just had this vision that everyone, like lemmings, was just going to fall into the canyon. That didn't happen, thankfully. But I went dashing off into the crowd because I wanted to see where it went, like everyone else. And my mom, I remember her going berserk, and I couldn't even care. I had to see what was going on with the rocket. And then part of me was like, why does she care? Well, that was a crowd of pretty rowdy bikers, and it was not run very well. Right. But again, I don't remember looking particularly at the crowd. I was 6 years old. I remember the excitement. I remember it was hot, but I don't remember a lot about Idaho. And it was funny. I didn't come back until 2008, and when I started this, and it didn't hit me until I actually I stood on the spot where the ramp was and looked across there and realized, oh my gosh, first of all, it's a glorious canyon. second of all, it's a long way across.
Yeah,
and I know
it
how
is.
small this rocket is. You know, you're getting in a 25-inch diameter tube and launching yourself over a quarter mile. The rocket goes, the performance of the rocket is brutal. It goes 0 to 430 miles an hour in 5 seconds.
Wow.
It will travel a mile downrange and 2,200 feet high. It's just a frightening ride. And Eddie is funny because he says he's afraid of heights. And I thought, wow, you really picked the wrong stunt. And he goes, well, you know, how long is it? I go, it's about a minute and a half of a ride. He goes, I can do anything for a minute and a half. And I'm like, what a guy, you know? So, yeah, and I moved here. I've been living in Twin Falls since 2012. My idea was that, you know, we rally southern Idaho here and into this great project, and I'll build it all here, and, you know, everyone will be excited about it. And, boy, I think I missed the mark on that one because the town is, I like Twin Falls. I like living here, but it's kind of schizophrenic in its support of the project because you've got a lot of the old timers that remember kind of what a debacle it was, and
Right.
how people just trashed the place. And, you know, Knievel didn't pay a lot of his bills, and there was the security was very lax. But then you got a lot of other people that thought, wow, it was really cool. It was the only fun thing that's ever happened in this town. And so it is strange, but you have a focal minority that sort of runs things and will put the kibosh on anything that sounds even slightly dangerous. Although they do allow base jumping from
The Brine Bridge.
The Brine Bridge here, which is the only bridge in America that you can jump anytime without a permit.
I know.
It's great.
Isn't that crazy? I remember.
Well, it's money.
I remember
They
coming
realize
home.
It's money.
I remember coming home in 2005 when my grandfather died, and we were sitting, I can't remember what restaurant, there at the canyons, pretty close to the canyon edge. And I remember this lady just like stepping up from her breakfast like, oh my God, somebody just jumped off the bridge. And she was freaking out. You know, and I remember my dad just turning to her and just saying, lady, it's a base jumper. You know, he's got a parachute. But no, it's crazy, you know. And I think a lot of that has to do with what Evil did September 8th, 1974.
Yeah, I really think that the city of Twin Falls needs to just embrace its heritage, you know, that Knievel created, and sort of market itself as the extreme sports capital of the world, and really do something. And I think, you know, boy, it sounds crass, but maybe once the old guard sort of passes away, you know, and maybe this jump will help. Maybe the fact that we're running this right, and if we pull this off, you know, maybe it'll change things around here, and maybe that will happen because it's a beautiful canyon. There is, you know, Idaho is a freedom-loving state, and who knows? I would love to make this place the extreme sports capital of the world. And there's that room on the other side of the canyon is this great place where people go ride their dirt bikes and go four-wheeling and shoot their guns.
Yep.
And it's available to lease. So if somebody could conceivably put together a really cool festival there, who knows? Maybe it'll be me in the next couple of years.
You know, it is. That canyon is gorgeous. Snake River Canyon. I don't know, Brian, I don't know if you've ever been across the Pine Bridge. I hate heights, and I hate going over the Pine Bridge, especially when it's windy. And but
which is a lot.
Yes, you know, but going down to that canyon and just overlooking it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and as you know, I refer that to God's country. You know, that is my home. And what do you think if Evil was alive today? What do you think he says to Eddie Braun before the jump?
Wow, that's a great question. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe it depends on what kind of mood he was in. Because Evil and my dad were friends for years after. In fact, the project right after was my dad built this thing called the Jet Cycle, and it was a jet-powered trike for Evil to ride around, and it was super cool looking. I got pictures of it on Return to Snake River, and then he wanted to actually, Evil had asked, well, what's the next thing you could do for me, Bob? And he said, I think I can make you the world's first private astronaut for about $1 million. And Evil liked that idea, so my dad started collecting parts to build a rocket that would have put Evil into space, just like the X Prize. And then Evil got in trouble, for beating Shelley Saltman up with the baseball bat, and that effectively ended everything for him.
Right.
Lost a toy contract, lost everything, but then he said he had some unkind words to say, towards the end. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he would think. He could say it's the coolest thing. It's been 40 years. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what Eddie's recounting of the flight, because Evil, it scared him to death. This is the ballsiest guy on the planet. And I think the reason he never did it again is because it was just that frightening. And he was happy to get out of it alive, and it was it. Never again. But he embellished a lot. And Eddie is not that sort of way. He's a very humble man, and I very much look forward to hearing his account of this crazy flight that he's about to go on.
Your dad was a brilliant man, wasn't he?
He was not only a brilliant man, but a nice guy too, and humble, not arrogant. He was. Rockets were his healthy obsession, he called it, and it was rockets first and pretty much everything second. He was a bit of a hands-off dad, but that was great because I was a kid that really relished my freedom, and he was always there if I needed him, doing and building cool things. So he was the greatest dad I could ever ask for, and it provided me with the best childhood I could even imagine, to the point where it's like adulthood has not even held a candle to how great it was being a child growing up in Saratoga with your dad building rockets in the garage.
All right. Well, I'm excited for this. Check him out. Facebook, Return to Snake River. And we'll be waiting for the date to drop. And like I said, I'm really excited on so many different levels. This takes me back to my childhood. I'm excited for you and Eddie. And, what do you do? So when it's all over and Eddie makes the jump, it's not about if he makes a jump, it's when he makes the jump.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you do? What do you do after it's done and it's a success?
Well, one project that has recently come to me is a real good friend of mine, Lathan McKay. He's an actor, a musician, a skateboarder. He's the coolest guy you ever want to meet. He got the Knievel bug about 5 years ago, and he took it upon himself to collect every significant piece of Evil memorabilia that has been scattered, since over the last 40 years, and built a museum in Topeka, Kansas. And he's got Evil's 18-wheeler, all of his jump bikes, all of his leathers, and he's partnered with the STEM program. It's science, technology, engineering, and math. And they are trying to make science cool, which is exactly what I want to do. And so he wants me to set up an exhibit in the museum and teach kids about STEAM technology. And I think that's definitely one thing I want to get into. I've got a couple of I got a TV show that I've been working on for years called MechSci, and you can a link to it is on my Facebook page.
Okay.
And I love building stuff. My dad was obsessed. My dad once wrote he's got an autobiography that's on Amazon Kindle. It's really well written. I mean, I may be a little biased, but seriously, my dad was not only an accomplished rocket scientist, but a good writer, and had lived an amazing life. And you can read about it in his book. And he said his main interests were rockets, girls, and airplanes, in that order. And my interests are, rockets, cars, trucks, airplanes, houses, building, anything that just building things has been in my DNA since I was a kid. So my next TV show would feature or showcase people that have built amazing and interesting mechanical devices, and kind of like Mythbusters meets Monster Garage.
Right. Ooh.
And there's never really been a show like it, and it's kind of a man-type show, and hopefully we can get this next generation out from behind the video games and building stuff where it's actually useful.
I know my stepson, Connor, he just turned 14 this last week, and he's an 8th grader, and he's into robotics. And so he's into the video games as well, but he's excited because he gets to step into high school next year, and he gets to become part of this organization called the Nerd Herd, and they build robots. And it's pretty dang cool. And I'm excited to show Connor some of this stuff, and he'll probably get into this as well. And man, I think he would totally buy into that, steam engine deal. That'd be kind of cool.
Absolutely.
So
we like I said, we need another Evel Knievel. We need somebody telling. Human beings, I think, are kind of intrinsically lazy, and we need a push. We need something that pushes us to be better than we think we can be. And we had that with Evel Knievel, and our kids need that again. And hopefully, maybe this starts something big and can show this new generation that there's more to life than video games.
Absolutely. Once again, Mr. Scott Truax of Return to Snake River. Hey, I would love to chat with Eddie Braun if it's all possible. Maybe if you.
Well, he's a little harder to get a hold of. First of all, he's insanely busy. I've never met a guy that works as hard as Eddie Braun. Plus, he's also very humble, and he thinks that he says, until he's jumped the canyon, he doesn't feel like he's worthy of any kind of accolades or anything.
And that's fair enough.
I may disagree. I think, hey, what we're doing is interesting enough to talk about, and we sell T-shirts, and some people want autographs on the T-shirts, and he's like, what am I going to sign an autograph for? Who am I? And me, I'm like, sure, I'll sign it. I'm happy that anybody's interested in what we're doing. But I see where he's coming from, and I love the guy for it.
I think what you guys are doing is huge, and it's going to take off. I mean, literally. Where can we? So I noticed that you got some drawings and shirts. Do you have the shirts available yet?
Yeah, we've got a new logo. We had a great one when we were going in 2014, but I felt that we're absolutely going this year. So I've got a 2016 logo. It really jumps out. We got them in any color you want. I also put together a bunch of the technical drawings of the rocket, and I put them on one sort of poster-sized 2-foot by 3-foot page, and I can get them in glossy or in just plain paper. And it's a great thing for the man cave, great conversation piece. Hang it on the wall at the office. There's this cool rocket that we got, and the logo's in color. It's really cool. Everything we've got for sale is on the Return to Snake River Facebook page, and all of the sort of updates until we get our giant media blitz. Anything that we've got that's new on the project is on Return to Snake River Facebook page. So go to that, like it, tell your friends, and we really appreciate it.
Well, Scott, hey, thank you for coming on, and let's do it again.
Thanks for having me.
I know you're going to get a little bit busier before the jump, but hopefully we get out there and be a part of that, because not only is it a fascinating story, I think it's going to be a huge event, and I know it's going to be huge for the Southern Idaho, Magic Valley area, and man, it's going to be awesome.
Well, we look forward to seeing you.
All right, Scott. Hey, thank you for coming on.
All right, take care. Have a great Sunday.
Hey, you too.
Bye-bye.
Once again, Mr. Scott Braun. Man, I'm really excited for this, Brian.
Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, brings me back to the childhood. You talked about the little Evel Knievel race
the little
motorcycle.
Yeah, the zip lines,
This is bringing it back. This is pretty cool.
So I remember growing up in Baumholder, Germany. And of course, it was military housing, so there were big old apartment complexes. And so these big old buildings, I think they had like four like stairwells, and there was like 8 apartments in each stairwell or something like that. But we had this hill across the street from us. And we would like make ramps at the bottom of the hill, and we'd take our big wheels and we would either race them down the hill or we would try to jump like other big wheels. And it was all stemmed from Evel Knievel.
That's what it was all about. Evil's the man back then, and
He was.
still the man today. A lot of people still talk about him.
It'd be fascinating. I know Evel Knievel was a different man. What makes a guy want to jump the Snake River Canyon or anything else? I mean, just
Cuckoo.
just
Cuckoo.
the whole, I mean, because I have no desire.
You got to be a little different. You have to be a lot different, actually.
I mean, your wiring is different. Yeah.
That's
No-
what he
no fear.
does, though. No fear. The guy lived through it. I think ABC's Wide World of Sports had it on there.
Yes.
I mean,
it was something like that. Yes.
Something. And I mean, who wants to do that? Eddie Braun, and that's about it.
I'm really surprised that Twin Falls, hasn't stepped up a little bit more. And I understand, I know, they were burned in a couple different ways, by evil and, and supposedly, from what I hear is some of the security were like the Hells Angels. And so it was kind of lenient, but man, this is such a great thing for the Magic Valley, and it's a great story. And so I would like to say hello to a friend, TM. TM, I'm wearing my Dodgers hat. I told you I'd wear my Dodgers hat today. So, hey, stay tuned. At 11, we've got Carl Erskine as we celebrate Jackie Robinson Day that happened on Major League Baseball on Friday. I'm Norm. That's Brian. We are sponsored by baseballisms.com. I got a Jackie Robinson hat here. The old number 42. If you would like to purchase some, and there's other merchandise, baseballisms.com. Also sponsored by baseballdudes.com. Chris Gazelle, to be the best, you must train like the best. Chris was supposed to come on this weekend, but he couldn't make it because he's teaching pitching up in Vancouver, Washington. So Chris, thank you, and we'll catch up to you a little bit later. Sponsored by Base by Pros, building an athlete sports education. Mitch Canham, skipper Mitch Canham, of the manager of the Clinton Lumber Kings in Iowa. I believe it's in Iowa, Clinton, Iowa. It sounds right. His dad, Mark Canham, MDM Design, does the shirts for Clubhouse Chatter. Hey, if you'd like a shirt, shoot me an email, normbo18@gmail.com. You can purchase them for a nominal fee. They're pretty cheap. We are always live on yamhilltoday.com. Check us out. Clubhouse Chatter, we're on Twitter, Clubhouse Chatter 1T, Facebook, Clubhouse Chatter, YouTube. You can email me at clubhousechatter18@gmail.com or normbo18@gmail.com. We're also on Major League Baseball, MLB.com blogs. Hey, we'll be back with Carl Erskine at 11. Thanks for watching.